everybody? Lord Tremendous here, got a battle report here for ya. This is Game 3 of the Lone Wolf GT 2018. Tis I, Lord Tremendous of the Varangar, versus Austin Howell of the Undead. Another really cool guy. I mean, not a jerk at all, younger guy, and he's playing his Undead, and they look really good and terrifying. And, dude was real cool, like, from the very beginning while we're deploying, he's pointing at some of his units and he's like, these guys are terrifying, you don't want them to touch you. Literally what he said. And I was like, oh crap, I don't know these undead at all. So, I just was chalking it up, but you know what, I'm gonna learn something, so win or lose, this is gonna be a badass game, and dude was friendly as hell right from the get-go. So this is an excellent game. It's a close game, so sit back, relax, and get ready to see how Day 1, Game 3 finishes for me. You're going to enjoy it. Here's my list, and obviously there's been no changes because I'm not a cheater. I still have my King on the Chimera with Brutal and the Fog. I have my Chieftain with Brutal, Mounted, and of course he has the Staying Stone. I've got a couple of Scalds, and I brought a Devourer. Why, you ask? Because he's badass, that's why. The core of my army consists of a Warband Horde with two-handed weapons and the Crystal of Retribution, a unit of Sons of Korrigan Regiment, Fury and the Blade of Slashing, another unit, the Sons of Korrigan, with Fury and the Mace of Crushing, and I have a Tundra Wolf troop. Actually, that's one of two. See, there's the second Tundra Wolf troop. Then I've got Mounted Sons of Korrigan Regiment with Fury, and then I've got a Direfang Rider Horde with Fury and the Brew of Haste. That's going to do it for my list. I'm going to post my opponent's list, play some music. Feel free to pause whenever you like, see what he took. Okay, so the scenario for this game was Texas Twister, and I gotta be honest, in my limited exposure, this was the most hated scenario at the Lone Wolf. I get it, but at the same time, you'll see. Basically, you divide the board into 4 quarters, you designate which quarter is which, we use tokens, you'll see them in the pictures. And a tornado hits there. At the beginning of every turn, top of 1, 3, 5, 7, player 1 rolls for it. At the top of 2, 4, 6, player 2, or however the hell that goes. And there's the little chart. The opposing player, if you roll a 1, the opposing player gets to decide where the tornado goes. You roll a 6, the person rolling the dice gets to decide. And on a 2 through 5, it goes into a specific quarter. If the tornado is in that quarter, you can't fly. You can't use nimble. The winds are so strong that you have to run along the ground as if you were disordered, and then all shooting is at an additional -1, even magic that would normally be capped at a 5 up. So I could totally see how that could screw you over. At the end, you add up the unit strength for all units within 20 inches of your opponent's table edge, take the difference, and then you refer to this little chart, and that's how you tell what the score is. And then there's some strategic objectives, which we'll go over at the end. So this is the most hated scenario, I think, from the Lone Wolf GT, and, well, you'll see how it affects me. Here's deployment, and my opponent started placing first, and as you can see, he castled, kind of. It was a denied flank type of thing, and so I followed suit. He pushed everything over to the side. I didn't have a choice. I started with my warband on the left side there with my chieftain, my mounted chieftain, and then I started seeing what he was doing, and I started pushing everything over to the right as well. I don't know why he did that. He wouldn't tell me a strategy, and that was probably smart. But he did that, and so as you can see, there's 2 quarters on the left side there. Maybe it was smart because now we don't have to worry about the tornado as much. Not that it's going to super affect either of us. I have 1 flyer. I don't think he had any. I can't remember, but really neither of us have any shooting that's significant whatsoever, so who cares where the stupid tornado goes? If it hits my dragon or my king on a chimera, so be it. So be it. He's still just going to run across the table. It shouldn't be that big of a deal, but whatever. We'll see. So anyway, left to right, I got my chieftain, I got my warband, I got a Scald, the legendary. I've got my Tundra Wolves, and right behind them is Sons of Korgan. Then, of course, my king and a chimera. Right next to him is my mounted sons. And then in the forest, I've got my second unit of Tundra Wolves with the Direfang behind them, just the screen. And Scald is right there to give inspiring to everybody that's over there, with the Devourer and the other Sons of Korgan ready to fight whatever they can get a hold of. The idea is honestly push forward and beat the crap out of him. I gotta have as much as I can within 20 inches of his board edge, so I gotta come forward. He's gonna come at me, so this is gonna be a bloodbath, and that is exactly the kind of game I love. But that's it for deployment. So here's top of one after movement, and we roll for where the tornado goes, and it's over on the bottom left side there. So really, it's hitting my, what's it called? It's hitting my warband, and it's hitting the chieftain, so not a huge big deal at all. They were able to move normally. It just kind of, they couldn't fly, and if they were going to shoot, it was going to be at -1. Not important at all. Everything that I have shoots forward for the most part. I do a little bit of a traffic jam, but I do that on purpose. I'm trying to draw him out. I want him to be way overconfident. I want him to be like, oh, look, he's all tangled up and stuff, but I didn't have a problem with that. Anything that he was going to charge was going to be like the wolves, and the counter charges were going to be amazing. So I was really trying to bait him out. I don't know this guy. I don't know his list. I know he can surge because I remember that from when I played Big Tom. So I was really kind of figuring he was going to do that. No, I didn't look at his list, so it just, I don't. I should. I'm not a good player. What can I tell you? But I'm going to let you know right now also, the tornado stays on the left side of the table the entire game. I'm probably not going to bring it up again until the end, because it doesn't affect our game at all. It's on the left side. It bounces from the bottom left to the top left the entire game, never affecting either of us. So the scenario didn't bother me at all. And that's it for movement. Here's bottom of one after movement, and he comes flying out too, which is good. That's exactly what I want him to do. His, what is it, Wraiths or something like that? Whatever the glowy unit is, goes right into Devour. He's height 4, the hill was only height 2. He saw me all day, and he charged right in, and that's fine. If the Devourer dies, so be it. If he doesn't, I'm going to be able to charge the hell out of that unit and kill it off. I don't know what it does. All I know is that he can heal him real easy, and I need to do as many wounds to him as I can so that I can break them. Wavering is not an option. Plus, I think most of his stuff is fearless anyway, so it wouldn't matter. Not 100%. I'm not really good with undead yet, or against undead yet. But for the most part, his cav all come forward to start blocking. One unit of cav charges my dogs in the middle there, and that's perfectly fine. I'll eat them alive after my dogs die. And then everything on his right flank comes forward as well to support. Kind of conservatively, not as much forward as I would have liked, but he's not stupid, and he doesn't want me to easily charge him everywhere. He does have his big scary vampire cavalry coming forward. I assume there's some sort of like vampire knights. He told me they were vampire knights and they were super scary, high toughness, a high nerve check and all that stuff. So I was a little worried. But like I said, dude was cool the whole time, and basically let me know everything here is scary except for this stuff. You don't want this stuff to touch you. I thought was really, really cool. And I just told him everything in here is scary except for the dogs. So I wasn't sure where he was going with his cav, but I was hoping he was going after the warband, because then he's way out of position and that'd be perfectly fine. And with the Suns possibly able to countercharge, that would have been great too. But you'll see what happens, and that's it for movement. Nothing happens in the pansy phase, so we go straight into combat, and his cav beat my dogs for 3 wounds. Not a huge big deal, so I'm thinking that they actually might survive this. So great, I get to beat on these guys for a minute. I'm absolutely right, he backs off an inch, and my dogs get to get a little bit of revenge. They're not going to have Thunderous Charge, but if they do a wound, I'll be thrilled. Then in this combat over here against my Devourer, he rolls poorly. He picked up a ton of dice, and he rolled really bad. Only ended up doing 5 wounds, which it's not going to be enough to hurt my Devourer. My monster passes nerve check no problem, and they back off an inch. So I'm curious to see how much of a punch in the face they can take. That brings us to top of 2 after movement, and I say screw it. I know it's only turn 2. Screw playing conservatively. I'm going in. So in the center of the table there, my chieftain comes flying around the side because I don't want a front charge on anything. I want him to come around the side and go for a target opportunity, maybe a support charge. So he comes flying around the forest hoping to do that. I'm also thinking that just maybe he'll turn his knights around to go after him. I don't know. It doesn't hurt me anything to try to bait him like that. My warband goes into his little light cavalry there because I'm thinking that shouldn't be too much of a problem. I am going to be hindered in the forest, but whatever. Maybe I can do something to these guys. The dogs countercharge. The Scald and the Sun stand back to wait to see what happens. And then in the middle, I see an opportunity and I go for it. The Suns and the Dire Fang are in range. They both charge his Horde Brick of Ghouls. I figure if I can do enough wounds to these guys, because it's 50 attacks, I could break them in one shot, and that would be huge. The Suns and the Devourer charge into the race, because I realize I can do that. And I don't think my dragon charged anything. He just comes forward to back up and give Inspiring to everything, because my dogs charged whatever was on that hill. I think it was a character that he was using to block. And that's it for movement. There is no pansy phase, because I play a man's army. And to prove that, my 25 attacks that are hindered, I do 4 wounds in a cav. I rolled really bad. Granted, I think I needed 5s and 5s to hurt this guy, or 5s and 4s, but only 4 wounds, it's not going to be enough. But it's a start. Passes nerve check no problem, and I back off an inch, as the rules dictate. My dogs are pretty motivated to get some revenge, and they do 2 wounds to this light cav unit. Again, it's not going to be enough to do anything, but it's got to start somewhere. And, in my opinion, if he goes after trying to heal these wounds up and stuff like that, he's not healing wounds on anything else, so that would be fine with me. Obviously, he doesn't break from that or anything, so I back off an inch, and we'll see what happens next turn. The next combat with my 2 units of cav is devastating. I do 26 wounds to this unit out of 50, so 1 above average. Super thrilled about that. 26 wounds. I don't care if it is a Horde Brick. As long as I don't roll snakes, this unit's gone, and I needed that. They break, which is super huge. That was, oh man, I needed that. And so my Dire Fang ended up coming forward just like an inch or 2, not very far. And I changed facing on my Mounted Sons to look over at his Knights because I know they're coming. I didn't trust myself to go forward enough to stay out of their charge arc, so they just turned, faced, and accepted what was coming. I don't know what these things do, so I don't know if this is a good idea or not. My Tundra Wolves up against his character here don't do anything. I flub spectacularly. Needing 4s to hit him, I roll 10 dice, and not 1 is above a 3. I back off, I apologize to my opponent for wasting his time, and we move on to the next combat. So, the last combat of the turn, my Devourer and my Sons put 20 wounds onto whatever these Wraith things are. I think they're Wraiths, I'm not sure. But yeah, 20 wounds. I was so pleased. They break, and I send a Devourer forward. I didn't know what all those Reavers, those black and red guys do, and he had been saying, these guys are really scary, you don't want them touching you. I wanted to be touched, and I figured I could lose the Devourer, and the Suns and the Dragon should be able to sweep up. So I send the Devourer forward. He goes forward like 3 inches, and then I back up the Suns an inch, I think, is because that's what I rolled. And I see what he does next turn. Very curious. Here's bottom of 2 after movement, and my opponent is not wavered. He comes after me hardcore, and I love that. And I say that, and I start off on the left side there to center the table with the warband. He did not charge his unit in there. He wants my warband held up. Not a terrible tactic. So he's going to have me continuously charge his unit, sure, but it's going to be hindered every time because it's not a counter charge and I have to go through a forest. Very smart move. So that's interesting. It's a roadblock. I don't really have anything to support right now, so I was impressed. Maybe you're not, but I was. However, in the center there, his whatever light cav, they charge into my Tundra Wolves again. He wants them dead. No problem. His Vampire Knights charge into my Mounted Sons, and I'm very curious to see what's going to happen there. His big old regiment of Reavers, something like that, go into my Dire Fang, and I'm curious about that one as well. One of the troops goes into my Dogs because his character gets the hell out of the way, and the other troop goes into my Sons, ignoring the Devourer completely, which I thought might have been a mistake, but again, I don't know what these guys do, so I'm going to find out. And that is it for his movement. In the Pansy phase, his character casts Heal on the regiment in the forest going up against my warband and heals all 4 wounds off of them. Very well played. Another one of his casters uses Bane Chant on this unit and gets it off. They now have +1 crushing strength, which against my Dire Fang is probably going to help them a lot. With the pansy stuff out of the way, we dive into combat. He starts off with this little unit into my Dogs. He gets him up to 6 wounds. He doesn't even waver them, and he backs off an inch. I know it looks like I'm touching the Sons and everything like that. He just kind of bumped my stuff. Not a big deal at all. We fix it a little bit later. But the Dogs are still there, so the fight's going to continue. So his Vampire Cav do 12 wounds to my Mounted Sons. I'm like, holy crap! I misjudged! I'm sorry! It's not looking good for the Mounted Sons at all, and I pucker. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I get lucky, and he rolls just high enough, 1 point below needing to rout them, and he wavers my unit. Won't be a big deal because they have Fury, but I feel bad at this point because my opponent was excited about that. He's like, cool, I wavered him, I'm going to kill him. He's got my list. He's literally been looking at it the whole time. He should have seen they had Fury, and it's a tournament. In any other scenario, I would have told him, but they got Fury, it's no big deal, but it's a tournament, and I need him to make mistakes or I'm going to lose, so I just kind of let him go with it. The Reaver Regiment or whatever, Revenant, yeah, I think it's Revenant, not Reavers, sorry. The Revenant regiment that attacks my Dire Fang is equally as scary as the Vampire Cav and do 11 wounds to these poor bastards. Again, he rolls just high enough to miss routing the unit by 1 point. He wavers them, he doesn't realize they have Fury, and he's very excited about the fact that he wavered them. I'm like, it doesn't matter. But I didn't say anything because, again, it's a tournament and I feel like an ass. So that's it for that combat. He backs off an inch. The Dogs, however, take 14 wounds from the little troop of bastards that beat them back into their baser elements. The Dogs die. Screw being routed. The whole unit just exploded, and I no longer have that unit anymore. He destroyed it. Yeah, it happened. He beat them down so viciously, I lost them in the real world. Yeah, thanks, pal. The other little troop does 9 wounds to my Sons of Corrigan. They should be able to take that, and as you can see in the bottom there, I do have a Scald nearby, just in case he decides to roll high. He did, actually, and again, missed routing him by 1 point. Luck of the gods, what can I tell you? Better lucky than good. He backs off an inch, and they have Fury, so it's really not going to matter. Here's top of 3 after movement, and at this point my opponent realizes, oh, they all have Fury. His buddy came over to check on how our game was going. Nice guy. And he was like, I wavered all 3 of his units. And he looked at me and he goes, Varangar? I said, yes, sir. And he goes, Fury? Yes, sir. And he goes, yeah, that doesn't matter. And his buddy looks at his list, and my opponent looks at my list and goes, oh, I forgot. I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. I would have said something, but it's a tournament, man. I'm sorry. He was like, no, it's my mistake, so I charge. I'm a terrible person, and you should hate me for that. On the left flank there, my warband goes back into his cav because, hey, it's a speed bump, and all I can do is try to run it over. My Tundra Wolves go into the other light cav because that's just a battle for the ages right there. My Chieftain moves forward to go after his characters because I don't have anywhere else to really go after. I couldn't charge into the rear of the Vampire Cav, so I couldn't help out my Mounted Sons because just piss poor placement on my part. But my Mounted Sons do go back into the Cav. The Dire Fang countercharge. My Devourer charges the Troop Regiment. My Dragon, my character, he charges into the flank of the troops. The Sons of Corrigan countercharge as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it for my movement. I'm trying to put the undead to rest. With no pansy phase, we go straight into combat, and I start off with the Warband, and those 4 wounds that they healed last turn, I put them right back on them. Consistency is the key. They pass their nerve check no problem, and I back off an inch because I follow the rules, damn it. In this combat over here, I think just the Scald kind of goes in with the dogs, and I don't do anything. Maybe a couple of wounds, not a whole lot. I really rolled poorly. They stay, and we go to this combat, and my Disordered Knights do awful. Truly, truly awful. I do 4 wounds to these guys. They are literally laughing at me. I back off an inch, and yeah, the vampires are saying things about my mother, and you know what? Probably most of them are true. So oh man, this unit's about to get slaughtered. My Dire Fang actually do really well and put 11 wounds on his regiment of Revenants or something like that. Yeah, I was actually very impressed with how well they rolled after I rolled as terrible as I did with the Mounted Sons. I changed their facing to look towards the Vampire Cav because, let's face it, my Mounted Sons are gone next turn, and I'm not giving them a free flank. In this combat, my Devourer does not do amazing. He gets 5 wounds off on the troops. Kind of hoping for a little bit more, but, you know, with 10 attacks, what more can I really ask for? Luckily for me, I roll out of the box, and real quick mention, my opponent made a mistake here, and I would be remiss to not point this out. With the troop and with the regiment that my Dire Fang just broke, his inspiring character, he backed off last turn, and he was 7 inches away, so his inspiring didn't reach, and that's why I was able to break him. I rolled hot, and both those units died because I didn't have to re-roll. So, again, I would have been remiss if I didn't point that out, and yeah, so I'm clearing up the right flank pretty nice. My King and Sons are able to finish off the little troop, no problem. They just did like over 20 wounds. It was insane. They break them, and they both turn to face because there's a character coming this way, and I don't want it in my flank. I don't like the way it's looking at me. With my turnover, here's bottom of 3 after movement, and he's not out of it yet. His Knights charge, the Light Cav Knights charge into my dogs again, or actually into the Scald, I think. His Vampire Knights go in to finish off the Mounted Sons. There's nothing I can do about that. His characters on the right side there just kind of shuffle around so they can't be easily charged by the Devourer. And his other little Lich King guy charges into my King and a Chimera looking for, I don't know. I don't know what this thing does, but it's tough as nails, so it should be very interesting to see what happens here. And that is it for movement. In the Pansy phase, wash, rinse, repeat, his character casts heal on that unit in the forest and heals all 4 wounds yet again. That's 8 wounds healed off this unit. He's still not countercharging me, so I'm still going to be hindered, but I need him to stop it! We jump into combat, and he starts with the Lich King into my King, and he does 3 solid wounds to me right off the bat. It's not enough to so much as even waver me, so he backs off an inch, and I'm going to see how my King does against him next turn. Okay, so this combat, he's a little tired. He only does 8 more wounds in his unit, bringing their total up to 20. Oh my god! And yeah, they dissolve. They are gone. Yeah, there was nothing I could do there. I got outplayed. His Light Cav did charge my Scald and does a couple of wounds to him. No real big deal there. He should be able to handle that. And I'm right. He backs off an inch because I passed the nerve check, no problem. And we move on to our next turn. Here we are on top of 4 after movement. I'm going back in because crazy's all I got. So, starting in the center there, my Warband goes back into the perfectly fine and completely healthy troop of Light Cav. My Tundra Wolves charge into the other unit of Light Cav. My Scald decides to stay out of this because I realized that was a really stupid thing to do. My Sons of Korgan just continue to watch because that's really all they're going to do this game. My Dire Fang charge into his Vampires because they got to go. My Chieftain charges into one of his characters. My Devourer charges into another. My Scald and my King charge into the Lich King that attacked my King last turn. And the other sons, they just kind of hang back because I'm not really sure what's going to happen on this combat. And while I probably should move them towards the board edge, I panic and I'm like, if my King dies or something like that, I got to send the sons in to finish off this Lich King or he's just going to eat my right flank. I don't know how good this character is yet, so that's it for my movement. Again, we start off with the Warband, and they're still hindered. they take 3 wounds off these guys. They are exhausted. Charging through all these trees is a pain in the ass. Passes that nerve check no problem, and I back off an inch like a gentleman. In this combat, my Tundra Wolves were able to put 2 solid wounds onto the light cav. Probably not enough to even so much as phase him, but it's better than nothing. With his nerve check passed, I back off an inch. Just kill the dogs already, the sons are bored. So, in an unprecedented amount of luck, I was wrong. My chieftain went into their flank, adding his 5 attacks. I do 12 wounds to his vampires. They had 1 or 2 on them already, so they were around 13 to 14 wounds. And I break them. I'm able to rout them twice. I was so thrilled. Brutal is what did it. My chieftain's brutal is what pushed it over the edge both times, and the vampire cav are gone. I can't even begin to describe the relief I felt at this point. I leave my Direfang, look in the direction that just kind of change her facing a little bit, because I'm tired of this light cav, and I need to get my stuff within 20 inches of his board edge completely. So they turn to look at the light cav, my chieftain turns to look at the characters, and hopefully we're going to be doing some mopping up next turn. My Devourer, he's got to hit the gym. I'm not really sure what's going on with him, but he's able to do 2 wounds to this character. I think it's the named Necromancer, or maybe is that the Lich King? I'm not going to lie, I have no friggin' idea. His nerve check is a little low, so I'm happily able to waver him. And I don't believe he has Headstrong or Fury, so he's going to be stuck there for a turn, which means my Devourer gets a second chance. In this combat, we're able to put 9 wounds on his Lich King, which was tremendous. And even with Brutal, I wasn't able to roll high enough to rout him, but I was able to waver him, and I'll take it. That does it for my turn, so here's bottom of 4 after movement, and now his Light Cav go in. They go into my Warband and back into the Tundra Wolves. I think maybe his character on the top there backs off a little bit. I can't remember. I know the one that was in like the little terrain feature that my chieftain was looking at runs and charges my Devourer, just hoping to break him before I kill the other character. Not a bad idea. His Lich King, though, his Lich King had like 9 wounds on him. He rolls regen, needing 5s, and he regens 8 of them. I couldn't believe it. Phenomenal rolling. Who am I to fault him for it? But damn it! Now I'm going to be stuck in this combat even longer. But that's it for movement. We dive into combat because nothing happens in the pansy phase, and he starts with the wolves and flubs. He doesn't do a single wound to him. He backs off an inch, and all is right with the world. In this combat, his dice have just completely abandoned him now, and I feel terrible for the guy. He was cool about it, don't get me wrong. He was cool about it the whole time. Not one time did he get salty. But he attacks my Warband and does a single wound to him. He doesn't roll double boxcars, he backs off an inch, and that's the end of his turn. Well, that's not entirely true. He attacks my Devourer, but again, flubs and doesn't do any wounds. And that's the end of his turn. Here's top of 5 after movement, and it's a tournament, so I can't back off. My dogs and my Direfang charge the light cav in the middle. My Warband charges the ones they've been charging the whole game. My Chieftain charges the character that tried to attack my Devourer last turn. My Devourer charges the guy he wavered last turn, and my Scald and my King charge a Lich King that has regen of the gods. My Sons of Korgan unit turns and starts moving 5 inches towards the board edge so I can get those points, and that's it for my movement. Nothing happens in the pansy phase, so we go straight into combat, and my Warband pulls it out and does 6 solid wounds to this unit. They have not been able to heal, so I think that brings them up to a total of 9. I break them, they rout, and I overrun. And I think I overrun 5 or 6 inches, and now I'm well within the 20-inch block. So, excellent. The Warband, although was stumped the entire game, they're going to secure their points, and I can't be upset about that. In this combat, the Direfang just do all the work. The dogs, I don't even think, did a wound. The Direfang, with 60 attacks, though, murdered that light infantry unit, and that's what I needed to do. My chieftain, although hindered, is able to do 4 out of 5 wounds to this character. I don't know what he is. I don't know if he's his name character, if he's a Lich King, or what. But he's an undead character, and he's on the wrong side of the table, so he has to die. Since he's already dead, I can't kill him. I back off an inch to contemplate this, and yeah, he's perfectly fine. My Devourer has developed a taste for undead flesh, and tears into this character this turn for 6 wounds. I think bringing his total up to 8. I don't believe he was able to heal up anything last turn. My Devourer devours him, and I just change facing slightly so I can look at this other character. Hopefully he can't get out of my line of sight, and I can charge him next turn as well. In the combat against the Regen King, I'm able to do 6 wounds. I'm a little intimidated now that he's just, like, melted all those wounds off of him. So, I think his total is now 7? Wow! Even Brutal isn't enough to finish him off. I back off an inch, and we see what happens next turn. So, I screw up here, and I did not get a picture of bottom of 5 after movement. I'm sorry, I was trying to concentrate on the game. I have about 80 excuses prepared, but I failed, I screwed up. There is no picture for bottom of 5. Suffice it to say, his Lich King countercharged my dragon, and the character that got charged by my chieftain last turn, charged Devour again, doesn't do anything and backs off an inch. In this particular combat, his Lich King is able to put a couple more wounds onto my dragon. It's not enough to break me. He backs off an inch, and we go to the next turn. Here's top of 6 after movement. Everything in the center moves forward to try to get into that 20-inch area. The Dire Fang move forward as well. The Chieftain charges the character again. The Devourer charges the other one. And the Scald and King charge the Lich King. My Sons of Korgan move forward, and that's it for movement. Once again, I'm a one-trick pony. We go straight into combat. I start off with my chieftain, and he does 3 wounds to the character, bringing his total up to 7, I think. Even with Brutal, it's not enough to phase him. I back off an inch, and, well, if it goes to turn 7, I got the Dire Fang right there. This guy's going down. My Devourer charges into that character, whatever he is, and only does 3 wounds to him. He's tired. You know, he's got a lot of undead in his stomach. He's probably got some indigestion. I don't believe he breaks the guy, so we go over to this combat, and the King and the Scald are able to put 7 more wounds onto this Lich. He did not regen very well last turn, so this could be the end. It is. The Lich King dies, and all is right with the universe. We go to bottom of 6, but he's like, I'm done. Nothing's going to happen. So we end the game. So here's the end of the game. And if you're wondering why this slide looks familiar, it's because my camera has died. So this is actually the top of 6 picture, hence the reason the Lich King's still with the dragon and all that stuff. But for the most part, other than the Lich King still being there, this is what the board looks like at the end of the game. Sorry, my camera died, like, at this point, the last picture I need. I tried to turn it back on, get a picture in real quick, and it wouldn't do it. So, what can you do? Life sucks. But for the most part, you see what happened there. I got a bunch of stuff into the center, and we'll get to the recap right away because this game is over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
So in the end, it was a 15-5 victory for me. I had 5 unit strength total within 20 inches of my opponent's board edge. Plus, I got 4 strategic objectives for a total of 7. I ended up getting the scenario points at the bottom there. If I would have won this match in Classic Invade scenario, I would have. And scenario points if you control more table quarters than your opponent. I did. I controlled 1 more than him. So I got 7 total to his 0, and that, after we check the chart, is a 15-5 victory. So not terrible at all. I really needed his victory. I mean, if we're being totally honest, Fury won me this game. When my 3 units got wavered, if any of them didn't have Fury, I would have been toast. Luckily, Fury is a thing, and I have it. So that won me this game. It made all my counter charges possible. The whole army really came together in this game and did work, and that is exactly what I was hoping for. The tornado part of this scenario didn't affect us at all, so after the game was over, I was talking to the guys I came with and just some friends I had made while we were here, and a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them were really complaining about the scenario, how the tornado just kept beating on them, wouldn't let them shoot, wouldn't let them fly, and stuff like that, and I just all told them the same thing. Maybe if you played a man's list, you wouldn't have these problems. Strangely enough, that didn't seem to smooth it over at all. I I wasn't bothered by the scenario at all, and neither was my opponent. So I gotta give my opponent all the credit in the world. He really did warn me in the game that the Soul Reavers and the Revenants or whatever, they were scary. He wasn't wrong. There was nothing in his army that wasn't terrifying. It might as well just be called nightmares, because I had them. Undead is a real blast to play against because they're tough. They are a solid army to go up against, and I enjoyed everything about this. My king did a ton of work this game, just basically beating down Revenants and then holding that Lich King at bay for 4 turns. I guess the Lich King really was the one doing the work, but holy crap. And my Devour really stepped it up this game, going through one unit after another and eating up some characters. I like this army. There is going to be changes there. I've already changed up my list because, you know, these games are in my past. But man, I'm enjoying the Varangar. But the end of day 1 sees me now at 2 wins, 0 draws, and 1 loss. I've got 29 total battle points out of a potential 60, so I'm not doing great. I'm actually 1 point below dead center, which is bad, let's be honest. But I played some really talented opponents, including this guy. Everybody's been a real strong opponent. This list was dead hard, and thank you, Fury, for being a thing. This was an extremely fun game. Dude was a blast to play against. I'm really glad I got to meet him. Austin, you're a badass, dude. Thank you for the game. And with the exception of one mistake by leaving his inspiring character 7 inches away, it was his dice. I mean, he had this game. It was for his dice. The Fury, the 3 units that he wavered, 1 point away from routing him. If he had rolled 1 point higher, he'd have tabled me. It'd have been over. So really would welcome a rematch against this guy, where I'm sure he would kick my ass. But that's it, guys and gals. Battle report number 22, officially in the history books. Not a bad report if I do say so myself. This one was good. As always, though, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, or if you want to take me down a peg, whichever, feel free to put them in the comments section below, and I will get back to you as quick as I can. But as always, guys, thanks.